Welcome to Drawn Together. Get it? Our physics
No, I don't get it. Can you explain it? Please don't explain.
We are going to hit some of the most fun topics here in MCAT physics and also dive into some practice questions and also get a chance to talk a little bit about Sketchy and Blueprint and also give away some Sketchy and Blueprint bundles today. But we're going to get into it after we know just who all is here. These are today's presenters. My name is Adam. I'm the head of med and pre-med education. I was Sketchy's very first person they hired for the MCAT. I've been working on MCAT for a really long time, and we'll find out why in a moment. But we're all going to share our number one magic spell, if we could only choose one. And mine is the spell of a dog companion. Let me explain what I mean by that. I don't mean a spell that gives me a dog companion. I mean a spell that when I leave, there can be a version of me that stays home to be a companion to my dog. That is the magic spell that I would keep. Ben, let me hear about yours.
Genius. I'm Ben. I'm the creative director here at Sketchy. I used to be a urologist, and now I make cartoons that help you learn stuff. And that is genius, Adam. I wish I had thought of babysitter for my 1-year-old son. That would have been way better than what I picked. Now that we all work from home and I just like roll out of bed and get in my desk, the thing that's missing, I think, to take me to peak laziness is that spell from the Unnamed Magic School series that brings you stuff. I wish I could just like say the magic word and have stuff come whizzing towards me. So that's my.
The magic word was whiz, right?
Actually,
you say like whiz paper, whiz pencil, right? That's what it is.
Is that a urologist joke? How dare you?
Kat, our special guest from Blueprint.
The puns today are too good. Hi everyone. I'm Kat. I am one of the instructors over at Blueprint Prep. I have been working at Blueprint for almost 2 years now, and I'm going to be starting medical school in the fall. I think my favorite spell or number one spell would be chef it up, which means I could say chef it up at any point in time, and whatever food or meal I want in the moment would just appear. So I could just conjure any meal and I wouldn't have to spend time cooking and I could just eat what I want. So kind of a more specific version of Ben's, I think.
That just makes me think about the Power from the Kirby games where you turn into a chef and put the bad guys in the pot and then they make the food. There's a new Kirby game. That probably happens in the new Kirby game, right? I guess that shows up. How old do you have to go? They'll show how old I am. What Kirby games last time that happened? So here's what we're actually going to do over the next 30 to 45 minutes plus Q&A is you've already seen our intro and meet and greet of ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about Sketchy and Blueprint, but then we're going to walk through a lesson on E&M, folks, along with some Q&A afterwards. So if you've got questions, you can put them in the chat as we go, but we'll also be opening up Q&A at the end. And then we always like your feedback, so we're going to have a survey, but we're also going to give away a bundle of Sketchy and Blueprint together. It's going to be a great time. But first, I'm going to throw it over to our creative director, Ben, to say a few words about what Sketchy is, because I know we've got folks joining us from a Sketchy world and a Blueprint world. So there's some education in both directions here.
Yeah, so hopefully, as you can tell from these pictures and all the little characters we've had around so far, Sketchy is a visual learning platform. So we use cool art and stories to help you remember all the complicated stuff you need to remember for the MCAT and then in med school. Sketchy has been used by more than 400,000 students, which is kind of wild, including me. When I was in med school, I used Sketchy. It's awesome. And people love it for many reasons. One, because it makes studying fun and it saves you time, and also because it helps you score better on the test, which is a little bit what we're all here for. So yeah, if you're wondering if Sketchy would work for you, I have a joke about the radial pulse, but also if you usually breathe by doing inspiration and expiration, Sketchy is for you. If you want to remember stuff quickly and know it forever, and I swear to God, actually have fun while you're studying, then Sketchy's for you.
If you are indeed a one-way breather, call your doctor to see if Sketchy is right for you.
Yes.
Kat, tell us a little bit about Blueprint.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Blueprint is a test prep company. Started with LSAT, but we've really moved into the MCAT space, which is really exciting. We definitely believe that students learn best when they're actively engaged and they're having fun, which is why our partnership with Sketchy made sense. But we have everything from recorded online classes to live online classes where you can actively engage with the material. And we are the home of the 13-point score increase, which is a big score increase. That's our average MCAT test taker. So definitely check us out if you are looking for a way to prep for the MCAT. And yeah, we offer a variety of things. I think the best is that everything we offer is very customizable to you. And any package includes like a study plan that you can move around, but it populates for you. It's really exciting. So whether you're looking for just full length or you're looking for a full online course, we have it all. So definitely check it out. And I think we have some packages with Sketchy that we'll be showing you at the end here.
Yeah, one of the reasons why Sketchy is good friends with Blueprint, and we are very happy for this, first of all, is because we get to have parties like this every once in a while. I mean, that might be worth it in itself. But second is that really whatever kind of offering, whatever kind of package you are doing for your MCAT prep, you can add Sketchy to it, and that is going to be something that you're not getting elsewhere. There are official bundles you can buy all at once. Like I said, we're going to give one of those away today. But honestly, we have designed our system to be something that basically no matter how you're coming at it, it's a good time. Helps you learn some things.
Yeah,
So,
and if you ask any MCAT scorer that have scored really, or MCAT test taker that scored really highly, I think they'll tell you that the more different ways you can see the material, the better. And that's why I think Sketchy comes at things with a really creative way to look at them, and that just helps with connections and everything. So.
My MCAT setting was full chaos mode, and I wish I'd had Blueprint back then.
if you are a chaos mode studier, you are in the right place to find solutions. So this is a bit of context to what the lesson we're going to get through today. The Sketchy MCAT program has lessons on every science section, every science subject of the course. We hold polls on what folks want to have in sessions like this, and every single time y'all say physics. Sometimes we're going to have to change things up a bit, but today we're not. We're going to stick with physics. And so this is where, in the larger scheme of our MCAT program, this physics course lands, and it is about charges and Coulomb's law at the Sketchy School of Sketchcraft.
Hey, it has a real name.
And
okay?
well, Ben, what is the real name?
So just to provide a little bit of context here, if you haven't used Sketchy before, in the MCAT program, every course of physics and cell bio and biochem and orgo and whatever is themed. So when you're with the Dalton family, you know you're in chemistry, and when you're at Sketchyland, you know you're in biochemistry. And for our physics course, we are in a fantasy world. And even within the physics course, we have sort of different subsettings. So if you're with the fish people, or if you're with the newts or whatever, you kind of know what the topic is. So for electricity and magnetism, we're with wizards, because where else does electricity happen in a fantasy world? And today, we're taking you to Coulomb's School of Applied Magics and Other Related Paranatural Phenomena, which is a very long name that we'll get rid of shortly. But this is to help you remember that the fundamental unit of charge, the SI unit, is the Coulomb. And Adam mentioned earlier the elementary charge, which is the charge of an electron or a proton, which is 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19 coulombs, a very specific and odd number, but there you have it. And so we've turned our ages 10 to 19 sign into a little way to help you remember that specific charge.
And I think some people got upset about they couldn't remember the name. And well, since this is a Sketchy school, we got to make it
just wasn't catchy. You know, it wasn't catchy. So instead of all that nonsense, let's call this Coulomb's conservatory, which has a nice alliterative ring to it. And that'll help you that charge is conserved, so it can't be created or destroyed in sort of a holistic aggregate setting.
It's a pretty comprehensive school to go all the way from 10 to 19. It's actually like middle school through early college, but I guess, you know, societies have different ranges.
Yeah, the bullying is merciless.
And for the quick little poll that I put in the chat of what one guess for what topic the underwater setting and the fish people is, yes, it is indeed fluids.
Got it in one.
Ooh, nice work. Name that tune in one note.
We're not trying to make this hard for you.
So the next feature in the school here is that, well, some of the students at Coulomb's conservatory, they wear different types of robes in different types of colors. And we have some students who wear purple positive robes. And we have other students who wear negative orange robes.
That's as much a word as left is. I will die on that hill.
And if you can think of a different color that starts with N that would have worked for the color of these robes, let us know in the chat. We worked really hard. Well, because there is a history, I guess fun facts of the fact that, you know, the original root word for orange was naranj or naranja or whatever from the Indo-European, etc. Navy is good. I like noir is a good suggestion too. We could have gone that way.
That. Yeah,
we could have gone that way.
It's like all in black and white, made it kind of like a hard boiled. Anyway, that's a different lesson.
Hard boiled magical detective fiction. Sweet. Yeah. I will say maybe this then shows the artistic design behind Sketchy, because if we did navy blue or black, then the purple contrast would just not really pop in the same way. But these symbols move a bit through the rest of this sketch, the positive purple, negative orange. But this particular symbol in the lower left of the screen, I'm actually going to ask you all here today, just put a guess. What do you think this symbolizes? What do you think we're trying to symbolize by having, you know, a couple students who clearly are, you know, very friendly with each other, and then another who are maybe not? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, attraction between opposite charges and like charges repel. We didn't know whether to actually call this a love triangle. There doesn't seem to be very much competition involved. I don't think there's going to be a Team Edward, Team Jacob conversation here going on. But that is what we are getting at with this particular symbol. A very memorable way to remember what happens with like and unlike charges. But of course, charges are not just conceptual. We also get into calculations. And so, Kat, what's going on here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely important to be able to look at this mathematically. And we need to be able to calculate the actual amount of force that is caused by charges here. And so we have a newt, which is casting a spell. Does anyone know why we might have chosen a newt in order to cast these spells? Too good, right? We're calculating a force. Units of force is a Newton. So we have this newt in the shape of an F showing us it's a force casting our spell, which comes out in an equal sign. And as we can see, Coulomb's law is equal to K, which is a constant, times Q1 and Q2, these Qs, there are charges, over our radius squared. And if we can see our little sketch here, we have our two charges, these two students. And if you look really closely, you can see that their ties are actually in the shape of a Q. So very, very clever here. So there are two charges, one of them with a K staff as well. And these are all on top, close together, showing that it's multiplied together over this radius squared under the bench here. And I think it's really important for us to think about what this actually means from a mathematical standpoint. Relationships are so important on the MCAT. They're always tested on the MCAT. And so if we got a question about how our force changes in respect to radius. Actually, that next slide is perfect. If we, let's say, doubled our radius, how would that change our force? We can think about that here. We double the radius. Is it 4 times bigger or smaller here? Ah, there we go, right? This is an inverse square equation. So that just means as we increase our radius, our force is actually going to decrease by a greater degree. And if we think about that happening, right, as we take these charges further and further apart, they're not going to be exerting as much force on each other because they're not as close.
And I think if we do, get into the fan fiction of this setting, these are the 10-year-olds and they haven't been sorted into their house yet, right?
They haven't been chosen into their various colleges.
Yes. They have not elected their major.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah, perfect.
Hence the purple and orange striped ties.
Yeah. So is it? We also have some pets in our place.
Yeah. What would a school of magic be without pets?
Familiars.
So this Zizzly Zazzly cat here being petted is to help remind you about static charge. So specifically, the cat being petted is to remind you that static charge builds up when 2 objects rub against each other and transfer electrons, just like that cat is doing. Her arm there, and the sock there is not a symbol, but just to remind you that stuff sticks to each other when static electricity is going on. And we found a funny picture of a cat with all this styrofoam stuff. If you Google static charge, the Wikipedia image, it's a picture of a cat with all this styrofoam packing peanuts stuck to it. So that's just to remind you, static charge.
And on the other, not really on the other side, but on a related, this one's kind of fun because it's actually going to inform us why they're wearing gray shirts. And what this one is symbolizing, I like to throw out kind of a guess. So a little bit harder to tell, but tell me in the chat, this student is obviously throwing their robe. Where are they throwing that robe to, though? Where is the robe going? Where are they putting it? He's real mad. He's like, get me out of here. I'm graduating. Oh, throwing it on the ground. Well, what is it that we call it when we're able to get rid of an electric charge? We call it grounding. And that's what's going on here. And what's left is that this fella has a gray neutral shirt, losing the negative orange robes. And so that even gets us back, throws us back a little bit to the previous symbol, which is that even neutral charges can take on a charge. We have the lady with the buns who has a gray shirt initially as well. So that's about grounding. But there aren't just students in this school. That would be, there is actually a fantasy series where that's true, but it's a lot darker. So this one does have this one. If anyone knows that series, you can put it in the chat. That's a fun little piece of trivia. It's a good series. But this one has professors, and this one has succumbed to a prank.
Yeah, that guy does not look happy. Before you go to the next slide, can anyone guess what this guy is meant to symbolize in his cozy, warm little bubble wrap prank jacket situation? It's a little trickier, maybe.
I love the shoes.
Yeah, nice. Insulators, that's perfect. So Professor Tumbletor is all wrapped up here.
He tumbles a lot. That's why he needs the bubble wrap.
So this one is kind of a double meaning here. So one, he's all wrapped up and cozy to represent the idea that he's kind of insulated. You can see there's charge sort of locked in there, but also he's stuck, right? He can't move around. And that's the idea with an insulator, that charge is localized, electrons can't move around and create current. And so insulators don't permit current to continue or progress. So that's our grumpy little bubble wrap wizard there.
And y'all can probably guess what the next and final big picture symbol is going to be here, which is that of conductors. Here we have this professor who has a wand they're holding up with the negative orange charge spreading out into the air. And this is what happens on a conductor. The material is put together in such a way, this is just how it works at the microscopic level, that those like charges that naturally want to push away from each other, they are allowed to push away from each other because those electrons can move in between molecules on a microscopic scale and get as distributed as possible. And I will admit, the first time I saw this symbol, I was like, but wait, why does this symbolize a conductor? And then I realized,
I was like, clearly, but there's no train. I don't understand.
This is a music professor conducting. That is a music stand. And so that is why this is our memorable conductor symbol. So this is our little travel through charges and Coulomb's law in the Sketchy universe. Ultimately, one of 250 different MCAT lessons that we have. And the way that this works in the larger context of Sketchy as a whole, because we get this question a lot every time we've opened up for Q&A, this has been a question. And so we like to just cover this here, is this that we just walked through is a video recorded lesson that actually is not up today, but will be up this week. This is never before seen by the public.
Off the presses,
hot off the presses. This is a lesson that will be in the Sketchy product very, very soon. And with all of these lessons you go through, first you familiarize yourself with the material by seeing a video version essentially of what we talked through. But then, and we've actually found this is borne out in the usage that students have of the program. We then have a review card, which allows you to have a visual like you can see on screen where you click through and it kind of reviews every element. And what we both recommend and what students actually do, all the med students who use Sketchy for micro and farm and what have you, there are more views on our review cards than on our videos because students come back to them and review them time and time and time again. And then, of course, we also have quizzes for many of our lessons. And it turns out we have a quiz today as well. And I'm going to throw things back over to Kat, whose name begins with the same letters, quiz, right? It's QAT, right, Kat?
Exactly. Yep. Great. Well, we have a discrete question here. We typically want our discrete questions to be answered in between 30 seconds to a minute here. So I'm actually going to throw this to you. We gave you the information you need. We're going to open up, a little poll here, and then we will, give you some time to solve it. I'll pull it back in about 45 seconds, and then we will discuss this question. So little chance to have some independent learning here. Go ahead and solve it. Don't throw an answer in the chat, just kind of hold on to it, and then we will talk about it as a class.
You said 45 seconds? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, wait, we're going to get, if I hum a song, we'll get copyright struck if we ever post this on YouTube, so.
Oh no.
Don't do that. You could hum an original song.
An original song is exactly 30 seconds though. It reminds me of when we needed to have 15 seconds to wash our hands back in the COVID days. And there were a lot of songs where it's like, this is exactly 15 seconds. So just sing this to yourself every time you wash your hands. And one of them is Toto's Africa. So every time I wash my hands now, it's exactly 15 seconds.
Bless the rains.
Yep.
I love it. All right. Well, we're going to call that about 45 seconds. And just throw a thumbs up. So a 6 in the chat if you think you could have gotten to the right answer here if you had a little bit more time. Okay, so that means we kind of knew how to set up the problem, but maybe didn't have enough time. How did we approach this problem? What did we need, from our lesson? What information did we need in order to approach this problem here? Ooh, getting some good responses just to us. Yeah, the equation, our little newt F here. And if you click the next slide, I believe we have our little newt, which we needed. And that equation was thrown in the chat, which is awesome. Oh, that was actually just to the panelists. But that equation was that force is equal to K times Q over our R squared, right?
Not going to advance to the next slide because we'll also give away the answer. But yes,
Oh,
remember the two
Good
kids
call.
standing on the table. That's
Good
the one
call.
we're talking
Exactly.
about.
So I'm just going to go ahead and draw on this if that's okay. Oh, maybe it won't let me on this here. There we go. Oh, I'm in white. There we go. All right, so that was that equation, that F equals KQQ over our R squared. We have all the information we need in here. We're given the radius, we're given our proton charge, and we also have K here. So the setup, as long as we know to use the equation, is okay. It's just kind of plug and chug. But again, math can take a long time. And we have to remember that every single MCAT question is designed to be solved in under a minute, which means there's probably going to be some shortcuts for us to use. Did anyone recognize any shortcuts, any rounding tips we might be able to use? We can start with this K. Will we ever need to be as specific on the MCAT as 8.99? Yeah, definitely not. We can actually like round pretty egregiously on the MCAT and it's going to be okay. Great. And then our charge is the same. So we're taking, okay, 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19. Oops, 19 squared. And all of this is over 3.4 times 10 to the negative 15 squared. Is there anything else, any other rounding that might help us simplify this out more easily? Any ideas? This takes practice to sometimes see these kind of tricks. Let's say we rounded 3.4 down to 3. And now we have 3 squared as one of our answers. How might that help us with this question? Exactly. So we get rid of our 9s. If we take 3 squared instead, here we have 9 times 10. And if we're squaring here, we just multiply. So to the negative 30, these 9s can cancel out. So we just made our life a little bit easier here, which is great. Our 19 squared, so we're taking 19 times 2, and that's going to be negative. And then we add a 9 here. So we're going to get 28 on the top over our 30. And that math gets a lot easier with like canceling out those 9s. What do we do when we have our 29 over negative 30 here? So in our exponents, if we're dividing exponents, this is a common complication here. We're going to add y. Yeah, so we subtract them. We take negative 28 over our negative 30. But if we're subtracting a negative, then we add. So we would have 10 to the 2. We are going to get out of our equation 1.6 squared. And this is becoming a little messy. I apologize. All right, 1.6 squared times our 10 to the 1. And when we do this math, we would realize that A is our closest answer. Basically, if we rounded down on our denominator, our answer bigger or smaller than our actual answer when we take 1.6 squared? We divided by a smaller number here. Does that make our answer an overestimate or an underestimate? Exactly. It's actually going to be bigger because we've divided by a smaller number. So this 1.6, which works out to like 2.56 times 10 to the 1, right? So about 25, that's going to be a bigger number. Well, the closest number here is A, and 119 makes sense. So a couple tricks there. Of course, we can just kind of straight plug and chug, but it is important to recognize that there are some ways to simplify a little bit if we are willing to kind of take a look for some of those shortcuts. So A, 19, that's our correct answer here.
Look at that mischievous Newt. Look at that
So cute.
problematic student.
Exactly.
Hold on. I fixed the problem, I think. All right.
Oh, perfect.
Now we actually can bring up the symbol before we finish.
Love it. Yeah, sorry about that. Great. Our second question of the day, another discrete question here. We are looking at what causes metals to be a highly effective electrical conductor here. And I'll give you a chance to read the answer choices. Lots of B's in the chat. Why? Why does delocalized electrons help with conducting electricity? Right, as we learned today, yeah, easier to share, right? Conducting electricity is just transferring electrons. When we're moving charge, we're transferring that electrons. In order to do that, we need to be delocalized. If you look at A, if it's near the nucleus, well, that force, that attractive force between our positive nucleus and that electrons is going to be stronger. So our nucleus is going to be holding on to those electrons more. And that especially because radius plays so strongly into that equation. And as we get further and further apart, those electrons actually have less attractive force towards that nucleus. So also tying back to that last equation. And so they are then able to be delocalized, able to share. So B is our correct answer here.
All right. Thank you, Kat. And I guess I don't know if I made that last question either unfairly difficult or maybe just the right amount of difficult, because I know that was my part that I explained, and I used every word except delocalized when we were talking about conductor. It's like I stepped around it on purpose. I will leave it as an exercise to the reader as to whether I stepped around it on purpose.
I said localized, so I think I incepted them. So.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
And really quickly with the strategy, again, coming at it with an MCAT strategy perspective on a question like that, if we didn't know the question on like a first pass through that, is that a good question to flag and come back to, or we just like take a guess and move on? That last question, it's a concept question. Yeah, I like that, Haley. We're gonna use process of elimination. We're gonna guess for something like that. It's not gonna magically pop back into our head, so it's not worth coming back to later. Whereas with that first question, more of a math-based question, we might need a little more time. So if we don't have time to solve that out, that's a really good one to flag. Flagging is an awesome tool, so it's important to keep that in mind and flag really strategically.
I've always also been a really big fan of the only figure out the order of magnitude system.
100%.
That is, let's say you're trying to solve a question quickly, or you flagged it and you come back to it, and then you're short on time at the end of the section. If all you can do is throw the powers of 10, even just mentally, if you don't have time to write it on your noteboard, throw the powers of 10 into a system and realize you're like, you know what? It's like 10 to the 2. Sure. Yeah. 19. Good guess. And often that's going to get you down to it that method will get you down to at most 2 answer choices with almost any tough math question.
Yeah. If you recognize different power or different, powers in your answer choices, that's a great strategy to use.
There's even a famous to me, I guess. I don't know how world famous these things are. There's a famous AAMC practice problem in one of their practice tests that in the explanation they give, it says, well, the formal charge of an electron is blah, 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 blah. And they solve it assuming you have memorized the formal charge of an electron, which nobody has. Don't do that. And their explanation says that, but I think whoever writes their questions are different from whoever writes their explanations in their products, because you don't need that. All you need is the very rough sense that it's like, 10 to the negative something big. And that gets you all the way to the answer. It's sweet. So what we want to do is open up to Q&A now. And I know we've already got one formalized question in the Q&A, which we can answer, but there is a little Q&A box in Zoom that you can use, or you can just put it right in the chat. I'm going so everybody throw questions in there right now. Typically, we can stick around for a bit to do this, but it can also flex to how many questions y'all have. The first one we have is going to bring us back to our question from a moment ago. So Kat, I don't know if I want to throw this one to you. Why is it okay to round 3.4 to 3, but the 1.6 to 2?
Yeah, I really like this question. And I think thinking about what we're allowed to do with rounding and how we can round is really important. So if we kind of think about what's going on, right? And let's just simplify this to if we had like 1.6 over our 3.4 here. So if this was it, this was our number here. If we round our 3.4 down to 3, if we round this down, and we're just taking like 1.6 divided by 3 here, is our answer that comes out of this bigger or smaller than our answer? We're dividing by a smaller number here. Yeah, so if we are rounding our denominator down, we need to think about what we want to do on our numerator. And would we want to actually round this up or down if we're rounding our numerator? Why do we say up, right? We said the number coming out of this is going to be bigger. Yeah, and I think this is a really helpful thing to think about. In our division and also subtraction, we want to actually round in the same direction. We want to round either down, down, or up, up, because that's going to keep us closest to our correct answer. The same thing happens if we are subtracting. We want to go in the same direction to keep us closest to the actual number. So I would actually say we don't want to round 3.4 down to 3 and then 1.6 up to 2. We want to keep those going in the same direction. Whereas if we're multiplying x times y, and if we rounded x up, right? If we are multiplying 1.6 times 3.4 and we rounded 1 up, what do we want to do in order to stay closest to our correct answer? Round down, exactly. So multiplication and addition, we want to round in opposite directions. Division and subtraction, we want to round in the same direction. So I actually didn't round the 1.6 when I solved it out, just rounded to 3 so we could cancel out that number. But if we were to round, we would actually want to round down. Hopefully that's helpful. And Adam or Ben, feel free to jump in if you have thoughts.
My commentary there is whenever I see something like 1.6 over 3.4, well, that's just 1/2. We're done.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is obviously a little more complicated than that. You guys, right. There's a few more calculations there, but just, whether you see that and you're like, oh yeah, it's like 1.5 over 3, or it's like 1.6 over 3.2. Those types of really quick judgments are absolutely key. And I would encourage those.
Yeah, and to answer our other question in the chat, if we were looking at what our number, what we were doing here, again, if we were just using Adam's trick of like looking at our powers, we had 10 to the 9th times 10 to the negative 19 times 10 to the negative 19. Now, if we work through this, we have basically, well, I guess I'll ask you all, what do we do if we are multiplying exponents? Yeah, we're adding. So our 19 plus our 19, the way my brain works, because I'm not the greatest at quick mental math, I'm like, okay, that's 20 plus 20 minus 2. So I actually have negative 38 here. And then if I take 9, I'm adding 9 to 38. What direction am I going, bigger or smaller? I'm having a positive 9 plus a negative 38. So this is actually going to give me 29, right? So 9 more. If we want to think about it, like, okay, 9 is close to 10, I'm going to go to 28 and then get up to give them one more, 29. And so we had 29 over our denominator, which was 10 to the negative 15 squared. This means we take negative 15 times 2. So we actually had 29 over 30. Sorry, 10 to the negative 29 over 10 to the negative 30, which then gives us that 10 to the 1, which we were looking for. And we can kind of work through this a little more if needed, but I'm not sure if maybe I misdrew something at some point, but we never had 10 to the 2, it was 10 to the 1, which means we are going to be in the tens place, not in the ones place, which is the rest of our answers. And that's why Adam was saying we can immediately go to this answer choice A from here.
It does get at one of probably the curviest curveball that the MCAT will actually throw at you about this, which is that, well, your powers of 10 might get nudged up 1 up or 1 down, depending on, if the, what are they called? The significans, the mantissas. What do they call those things?
Yep.
Depending on whether the first part of your scientific notation edges up just above 10, then that can change your times 10 to the blah a little bit. That's the technical term, I believe, blah for
the blah. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, but we didn't actually have to worry about that one in this case, right? If we take 1.6 times 1.6, we are still in that ones place. So we had like 2.56 times 10 to the 1, which just gives us like around 25. But again, we rounded down in our denominator, which means this is bigger than our answer choice. It's not going to be so much bigger that it's like a whole tens place different. It's going to get us to that A.
And here, there wasn't an option bigger anyway, so.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do think this is like a weird skill or thing to get used to, right? Because you don't actually, like, if you did this on a physics test and just said, I don't know, it's greater than 10, like, you would not get it right. But on the MCAT,
you
take
can
every advantage you can to move through these things quickly. They don't, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the super nerd version of why that actually is that the folks who write the MCAT, I guarantee you they have some questions that they have drafted where the math actually does matter. Like saying, oh my gosh, it's just more than 10. It just helps you not at all. And like estimation doesn't help. What they do is they field test those questions.
Yeah.
And then what test makers like is questions that perform exactly in line with every other question that they've written. But when they randomly throw one question into their field test that is suddenly dependent on exact math, suddenly they're going to throw that question out because it's not correlated with the rest of the test. Mm-hmm. And so that's how you end up like this.
Yeah, and we at Blueprint have a lot of sessions on MCAT math where we are specifically focused on some of the shortcuts, honestly, like egregious rounding, working with logs in your head, all that kind of stuff, because it is a different type of math than we're likely used to. And one of the biggest things that helped me, because initially this ChemPhys was my weakest point, I didn't love the mental math aspect of it. The biggest thing that helped me was actually while reviewing questions, looking for shortcuts. So trying to see, was there anything I could have done to be more efficient with my math and to make things easier? I might not have recognized on a first pass, oh, I could just like round this to 9 and then also round down to 3 and then I get to cancel out a whole number. I may not have realized that proactively, but once you get used to recognizing that, even if it's retroactive, you'll start to see some of those patterns, see some of those trends, and it is a lot better. So I do recommend kind of checking out some of those MCAT math tips if you can. And yes, those are part of, even if you don't do the live online class, those are part of the office hours. So with Blueprint, you get, with the online package, you get access to all the office hours. So this would be with the online course bundle, not if you just do the Sketchy and the 10 full lengths or number of full lengths.
Yeah, but if you do have or get a full online course bundle, like an online course with Blueprint, and you want Sketchy, just like give them a call. They'll see maybe they can do something for you. Like, it's not something you can buy on the website, but you can like call. I don't want to say it too loud, but like,
Adam, let's talk about how the internet works.
Yeah. So what wait, other people will hear me say this, Ben? This isn't just me talking in my closet.
I got a volume button on my computer, man.
So we're gonna move in, and anyone who wants to throw more questions in, we'll be here till the top of the hour, and we can chat more. But I want to get a few closing housekeeping items covered. One of those things is, let me get there. We have a survey. We like running sessions like this, which means we want them to be as cool as possible. We want them to be ones that you come back to, you tell your friends about. We kind of hang out every week or two, do sessions like this on topics such as, deep MCAT science like this, where we run through a lesson, but also other subjects as well. And so, what Brittany just put in the chat, bit.ly/Mayday BP Sketchy, though I believe it's probably case sensitive. Please throw that in. It's like a 2-minute survey. I'm pretty sure what we've got is like, what year are you? Did you like this? And what feedback do you have? It's just very brief. And we'd really like to get that, because we want to make these as best a use of your time as possible. And
it'll make Brittany so happy if you fill that survey out. And us too, but Brittany will be ecstatic.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like Brittany, she's been, Brittany's been moving across several states recently. I know it's been really stressful. So you probably make Brittany's day if you answer that survey. There are also, and I'm going to skip a little bit ahead because we are going to do our giveaway, but in case you do not win the giveaway, and I think about 50 of you will not win this free giveaway because of how the odds works. Basically, I know we have folks here who are probably learning about Sketchy kind of for the first time, and other people who are learning about Blueprint for the first time. But there's a reason why we get along. We just talked about earlier, we really share the philosophy of what it takes to really get over these big educational challenges. You've got to engage yourself. You've got to have a good time. You got to find ways that all this fits your own, wiring and your own brain. So if you know Blueprint and have not checked out Sketchy, please head to sketchy.com. It's relatively easy to remember, and check us out. If you know Sketchy and you're just learning about Blueprint for the first time, Kat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's blueprintprep.com is the
yep.
Right? Blueprint.com is probably some architect. Right.
Yeah, probably.
And I'll tell you, it is a pain in the butt to win over a URL that's a one-word English word. So I am not surprised. Take it from Sketchy, who found a way to get sketchy.com, that it is hard to win that. So that makes sense. Please, if you're coming from one world, check out the other, make a free trial. Both of us have really cool free trials that are generous and get you a sense of things. But we also have specifically bundle subscription plans, which allow you to get full-length exams from Blueprint and Sketchy's entire MCAT program. Two great tastes taste great together, and they're integrated with Blueprint's calendar tool as well to automatically generate a study schedule for you. So you should check this out. And we're also going to give one of those away. So here is what we're going to do.
Before we do that,
Go ahead.
We have one more question, which is less about physics and more about metaphysics, I think. This is a good question.
Oh, we got one question here in the chat. It is, how do you help yourself not question your gut answer? I feel like we could each give our own answer to this. Kat, what do you say?
Yeah, I think that this comes with confidence, trusting your prep. I think what can be really helpful, and again, obviously I work for Blueprint, I'm gonna pick Blueprint, but the Blueprint analytics for every full length, if you get one of these packages, even if you take one full length at Blueprint, you're gonna be able to see, okay, how many times did I change my answer? And did I change my answer and go from wrong to right or from right to wrong? And so I'm a very data-driven person. Seeing that data, if I'm changing my answer and I'm going from right to wrong, that means I shouldn't second guess myself. I should trust my gut answer. But if I'm doing the opposite, then maybe it is good that I'm spending a little bit more time thinking about it. So the analytics are awesome. But also I think it'll come with time and just trusting the process, trusting your prep, and recognizing that with really strong critical thinking skills, a gut answer is likely backed by like a process or by facts there.
I agree. To me, it's not should you question or not question your gut answer. It's exactly how much should you question your gut answer, because there is a right amount of that. Like, this feels good, but what is the other thing I want to look at just to make sure? Okay. And the only way you can train your gut like that is to get a lot of practice. That's one of the reasons why we're so eager, why we encourage students to get full-length exams in addition to Sketchy. We're not like, hey, get Sketchy and then go home. That's why we partner with places like Blueprint, because you need tools like that and you need that practice over time. Ben, how do you feel about your gut?
The way I always approach, I mean, after kicking myself a million times after not trusting my gut, I realized that if I go with my gut and I get it wrong, I hate myself less than if I change it and get it wrong. So I tend to just, if I'm really truly like, I have no idea, I just stick with whatever I put first. But again, you know, I think that's the sort of like old school approach. I think in the modern world, you said trust the process and analytics in one sentence, and all I can think about is basketball right now. But yeah, in the modern world, I think analytics are super helpful. So,
well, and the nice thing is, before you're actually sitting in on the day taking the test, just go with your gut, see if it works. That's what's great about practice.
That's what's nice about practice.
Yeah, which is practice. That go ahead, go with your gut. And then, like, that's what I mean by training your gut. You go with it, and then you definitely have to look back to say, what are the places where my gut was smart and what are the places where my gut was a little off? And you got to embrace that low stakes nature of prep. So there's another thing that I want to throw in the chat here, which is, if you are remotely interested in joining a Discord community, we have a free Discord server that we have started with Sketchy. And we recently got a vanity URL, so it's in the chat. We're really excited to say you can go to discord.gg/sketchylearning and join our Discord server, where there are not just MCAT students, but med students and residents. And we've announced events like here. We're going to hold additional AMAs there. We're really trying to make it a place for an entire community to talk with each other, you know, mentor, ask questions. So please, if that sounds cool to you at all, it is free. Check it out. Click that link and it will, you know, it's an invite link. It'll take you to our Discord, or if you don't have a Discord, you know, invite, it'll if you don't have Discord already, you know, it'll have you make an account, all that jazz. But we're going to give something away. We're T-minus 1 minute. We're going to do this. So here it is. If you would like to enter this giveaway for a free Sketchy and Blueprint bundle, put in the chat right now your name, first name, last name, and your goal MCAT score. Put that in the chat right now, and then I will do a countdown of when the entries close. And then we have a way that we select a winner at random. All right. See a lot of them coming in. Glad to see a lot of us want to get this done and get a free account. I'm going to give a countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. That's the entries closed. And we do have a way to do this. Give me a second. A lot of 515s, by the way.
That's good to know.
All right. The winner is I apologize if I do not pronounce your first name correct. So I'm going to also put it in the chat. Is Tiffany Roy, who was right next in the chat to a Tiffany. And so I needed to make sure that was, but Tiffany Roy, congratulations. We'll be in touch and get that for you. And yeah, that's always one of the most fun parts here is getting a chance to do some giveaways. Congrats. Those of you who did not win, please check out Blueprint and or Sketchy and or the bundle if you haven't. We wish you luck on all of your MCAT and MCAT studies and med school and all that jazz. I will just say, hey, Ben and Kat, any final thoughts? Oh, and I didn't even mention our code here. I should put this up here. You want to buy one? We actually have been running a code, a 13% off code, because Blueprint is the home of the 13-point score increase.
I was wondering,
a 13% off code. That promo ended yesterday, but we are officially extending it for this event. So if you want to buy it, it is deeper than most discounts we typically give for these bundles because the bundle's already a discount, so we don't typically do that. But because it's a fun little event we're doing, you would use the code BPSketchy13. And yeah, this is probably not the last time we're going to do this. So, watch this space, watch your inbox, watch, our socials. You should follow Sketchy on Instagram, Twitter, etc. And I'm sure Blueprint is in the same place where we'll talk about these sorts of sessions in the future. Hopefully see you on Discord. And yeah, Kat, Ben, final thoughts before we sign off?
You all are awesome. The fact that you're showing up to these types of things shows that you're engaged, you're proactive. So I have full faith in you all, but definitely the more ways you can see content and the more kind of fun, creative, engaging ways you can see content, the better. So I'm Team Sketchy. I think it's awesome. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, huge props. If you're here, you're already way more organized than I was. So you're going to do great.
There was one question, final thing. Can we use it on both websites? And I believe so, yes. I know for a personal 100% true fact, you can use it on the Sketchy website, but I believe it is live for both websites. But thank you everyone for coming. Good luck on decision. Congrats on decision day, Kat. I know that was in the chat earlier. Big day for you. So even though I'm sure this wasn't the biggest thing that you did today here on decision day, I am glad that you joined us, and I hope we can all do this again and that we see many of you here in the chat and your friends and acquaintances who you bring along with you, because that's really how this thing rolls. Tell everyone about us, give us feedback, and peace out, everyone.